this thing on? Let's see, 4 seconds. Hello, folks. 12:09 p.m. Let's see. Then I asked him a good question. So, how great? How many resistance members? So, how large is this Liverpool Underground that you fought alongside tonight? Liverpool Underground that you fought alongside tonight. I go last. Seems an odd question. I mentioned this guy didn't speak English. After he didn't speak English, and this is a plot hole, yeah. You know, Question Island. It was clear the group was sizable. Much larger than these Jade thought. Alan actually wasn't sure, but he believed they were over 500 members, with most of them armed. Unlike a resistance group from the last war, it might have had as many as 2,000 members. 2,000 members, but only enough weapons for equipped 100 of them. That was one of the problems of the last war. Even with all those factories, and with so many factories, they're just building weapons. There were often shortages of arms. Yeah, it's crazy in World War II. Just build guns. More guns, more guns. Everyone needs a gun. Put a gun in everybody's hand. That the Chinese had a gun in everybody's hand, and the Japanese couldn't have gone far into China. And the situation with China is very complicated. It's like China was broken up by all these little countries. There's no industry. There was a lot of people are just fighting each other. That's why the Japanese had the chance. They took advantage of a country in a terrible situation. But that's to be expected when you have opportunist, fascist imperialists like the Japanese were at the time. These days, not so much. But I'm still upset that they don't acknowledge all their war crimes. I'm sure they'll keep the Japanese Prime Minister up at night that I'm upset over their lack of apologies. Maybe they did apologize at various points, but when you do something that terrible, as happened in China and Korea and the other parts that Japan occupied in World War II and before it, then one apology probably isn't enough, in my view. Excuse me a second. Many shortages of arms. How many members? I wasn't told the exact number. Carolyn admitted after a moment. Wagner looked relieved to hear him speak. I thought for a moment that the pain had driven you out of your head. And you couldn't reply coherently. Weigel said. Ireland had been driven to such a condition before, but not here. Not in this case. It would take more than a couple of whacks to his balls to do nothing about him. To leave him, to take him out of his head. And endured a lot worse in the last war. The captive of the Bloodkins. And he had been captive of the Volgans too, who were as well versed in torture. Terrible tortures needed. Torture. As the Bloodkins were. said that the Volgan secret police at least might have educated the Wagner secret police, at least back in the early days of historic Stefan Gazer's regime. Yeah, I said Storgen, but that's the name I changed him from, Storgen, because it sounded too much like Gorgon in my view. I wanted to have him a slightly more normal name for the dictator, and Stefan sounds like that, but, you know, maybe I'll change it back to Storgen. I don't know. I kind of feel that with some characters you should have, like, one normal name, yeah, if you have, like, an odd name. You know, usually the first name would be normal, last name something more menacing. Let's see. No, I'm still in my head. Arlen said, as calmly as he could. And your balls haven't retracted into your body yet. Michael jeered. Perhaps you have, what's that thing? What does that even say? Steel balls? Unfortunately, no. Alan coughed. Alan suddenly felt very nauseous. Yes. And with some effort was able to keep from throwing up. He would have thrown up all over himself like some baby, maybe in a high chair. He died his dignity. Dignity could survive that, on top of being naked and tortured in such a below the belt kind of way. Just a second, folks. So, how many are there? Michael asked. You probably decimated tonight. And replied, probably down to a few hundred at most in this whole city. They'll find new recruits. Michael replied, shrugged, muttered. These groups always do. They're like roaches. Watching a new movie, The Ghost Galleon. It's on Amazon Prime. It's part of the Tomb of the Blind Dead series. Even though it doesn't have a tomb, it's a boat. Some kind of evil boat owned by the Knights Templars. The Knights of Templar being evil is a pretty old trope. I think they were mostly scapegoated, so in a way it's almost like, you know, all the smearing of any group that was persecuted. But, you know, don't want to let that get in the way of a good story. Darn it, someone's calling me. I'll be back again. Yeah. Or mud. Yeah, I suppose. Said, partially agreeing. These groups gained members quick. Many people signed up because of Jade and previous and other oppressive regimes kept killing innocent people. Those innocent people, the families, members of those innocent people, wanted revenge, so they joined the fight. The Jade being quite genocidal, exploitative. Genocidal and exploitative. Most people had to realize at this point that the Jade were planning on exterminating the people they ruled over, replacing them with Jade colonists. So, only the most cowardly people at this point could be on the sidelines. Now, if your options are enslavement or fight, we'll destroy them. We'll destroy them completely, Lago vowed, slapping one hand against the other, curled into a fist. We'll reduce them to the point where they're a little more of a threat than a roach or two, just skittering around in the dark. The threat of a roach to the point where they're a little... Oh, we're 11 minutes in already, huh? I haven't even done any silly rambling. We'll reduce them to the point where they're a little more of a threat than a roach or two. Picture a German officer saying this. I suppose the Jade almost are like Asian Nazis. Kind of what people thought of the Japanese as, at least in World War II. When I was younger, I thought that was the strangest thing, that the Germans, being such massive racists, would ally with the Japanese, of all people. I mean, they almost didn't... If the British weren't at war with them, they probably would side with the British over the Japanese. They viewed the British as like a necessary thing ruling over the world, actually. It's just kind of strange to me. Yeah, I assumed that the German plan was to take what the British had and not just leave them alone. That's probably part of their whole peace attempt with Britain after the Battle of France ended. You know, like all the Nazi racial stuff really screwed them over in a lot of ways, especially in Russia, where the Russians many Russians welcomed them as liberators against Stalin, but the Germans' policies against the Russians was just so brutal that they threw their lot in with Stalin, after all, and that brought the ruin of the Nazis. Partially. Nazis made many evil mistakes. Evil, maybe there's something, that thing about evil being stupid. I don't know. Like that evil will destroy itself because of its own ruthlessness. I've seen that sometimes, but, yeah. Nazis took more than just infight, would have taken more than infighting to destroy themselves. A little more of rat than the roach, or just. Do you have another question? I'll ask. Well, how are we? Well, how about who are the leaders of your regime? Who were responsible for this operation? Weigel asked. Another pointless question in Ireland's view. Pointless. Did he say the earlier question was pointless? Gotta be consistent, you know? What did it matter if it was the French, the Cromish, the Sellian, the Canadians, or even the reconstituted state of Mexico, or Mexico, as they say in Spanish, I think. As though it's spelled with a C instead of a C or a K instead of an X. How many countries with the letter X in their names is there, folks? I think some of them were in China, depending on how you wrote the names. But you know, Chinese names like Mao Zedong. In Chinese, yeah, that's his name. But Mao Zedong, all these other different spellings and stuff. You know, in English. So I'm really not sure. Sometimes there's a hyphen in there. It's kind of confusing with names translated into English. You know. All these weird accents, I don't understand why they're ever needed. Thank God this word does those automatically, because I could never do it myself. Like the word for creme, like creme, there's something else. You got the little thing over the E. It was the Allies. It was the Allies that the Jade Empire was at war with. A coalition of nations of the whole known world. That was the Jade Nation, the Jade Empire was pretty much at war with every nation in the world, and would probably be nation in the world at the moment. They invaded and killed people. They invaded and took wherever they pleased. There was no such thing as neutrality. Besides the Allies, there was also the Equalindist Alliance, which was technically the nation of the Volgan Union and its allies, including the Warsaw Pact. Nationalist Wu and Equalindist Wu were both in the Allies' sphere. Allied sphere with little coming from the Volgans. The Volgans seem to need every rifle and every bullet they could produce in their war against the Jade invasion. Boy howdy, what a war. What a disaster. The Eastern European satellites. The term satellites around before the war, and yeah, my background screen changed again. I'm annoying. I don't know why they decided you can't have an option that says don't change the background screen, but you know, it's theme. You just have to. These people who come up with these computers, they have brilliant ideas, you know. Talking about fixing a house. What the hell? The street has been abuzz with activity all day. I don't understand. I hate that. I prefer the street to be nice and quiet. God darn it. I don't have a lengthy rant here. Is this world building or is this just me blabbering for nothing? I don't know. I guess you could just delete everything from here to here and it wouldn't change anything. It was the Chromish. I don't know. You work for the Chromish? Not the Zedans? I go ask. I work for the Allies. Ireland clarified. Sometimes I take my orders from a lot of different people. Yes. I all chuckled. It's more boring. Boring for us Jade. Jade in the trenches. We always take our orders of the same people. There isn't much in the way of politics behind the scenes. I actually heard there was quite a bit of backstabbing and toxic politicking, and empire building in the Jade Empire. Clearly not enough to cause the whole thing to dissolve into civil war, unfortunately. What's striking to Ireland, knowing the history of the Jade, how they had become so unified behind their Jade Emperor. They're living for thousands of years with nothing close to a central authority, besides a bunch of monks, maybe a bunch of monks, religious monks, just living in a palace in a palace monastery in their capital, in the capital of Dalada. Right. Like I said, it was then that Ireland was... I thought I was supposed to correct that beam. Allowed to fall on the pole again. This time, blow to his balls. Actually didn't feel as bad. Feel nearly as bad. Perhaps he was getting used to the pain. Or maybe he was losing feelings in the balls. Feeling in the balls. It was no longer as hot and fiery. The pain seemed colder, not as fiery. It might Ireland, something a doctor told him about people being burned to death. How their agony was actually usually pretty short. Was actually usually brief. How the nerves would be cooked in the burned within the burning flesh left, resulting in a lot of numbness. Of course, that was for people burned alive, head to toe. It was not the case with people who were left alive to recover from burns, to recover in some burn ward for months or years. And some doctor told me that people being burned to death. And it was actually brief. How the nerves would be cooked in total numbness. Swiftly cooked. Of course, this was for people burned alive from head to toe, like those burned by a flamethrower. Okay, folks, we'll sign off here. Have a nice day. Enjoy your Tuesday.